Yasas. Welcome to Greek Like Me, the podcast about all things Greek. I'm your host, Pamela Diotis-Wood. Email us at stealthgreek@gmail.com to share comments, questions, and stories about anything and everything Greek. This episode, we welcome Kathryn Gauci, an award-winning author of historical fiction. Many of her books are set in Greece, where she lived and worked for 6 years as a carpet designer. She ran her own textile design studio in Melbourne, Australia for 15 years. Her talent for narrative and for steeping herself in the history of the design she offered led her to become a writer. She's here to talk about her latest book, An Aegean Odyssey, a memoir of her 2005 travels through the Dodecanese, the Greek islands of the Aegean near the coast of Anatolia. She describes the physical beauty, food, customs, and the wonderful people she met throughout the islands. We learn the history of each island, while the vivid descriptions of the architecture, the flavors, the aromas, and the textures she encounters offers the reader a multi-sensory immersion into the Greek experience. You're Brit-born, but
yes,
I think one of your ancestors must have been Greek, because there seems to be a bit of the Greek soul in you.
I know. I know. It's strange, that, isn't it? I suppose there's still some English in me. I mean, there has to be. But in my character, I don't know, it might have been those formative years of important years of my my 20s being in Greece. It sort of embeds into you at that point in your life.
Sure. But also you had a friend as a child.
Oh,
that
yeah.
seems to have piqued your interest.
Yeah.
In Greek food, because I actually, on my dad's side, I had a Swedish grandmother, and she was rather appalled by Greek food. She could never acquire a taste for it. So we felt that maybe if she'd had an early introduction, she might have understood and been more appreciative.
Well, I liked everything of the Greek food right from the beginning. So,
oh my goodness, I know. How could anyone not? I don't get it. I was wondering, I mean, you were an art student in Britain.
Yeah.
And you became a carpet designer, which I think is fascinating in and of itself. And then you wound up in Greece for working for 6 years. How did that happen?
Well, it was, nothing in life is intended. You know, things happen by accident and you take these opportunities. And when I wrote to the carpet company, Anatolia, I only wrote to be there for 1 year, because if you say you want to go there permanently, it's you know, no one knows if they're gonna get on with each other. It's too much. With the bureaucracy and things like that. So it's better to say you want to go for a short time. And that's why I said, I'd like to come for a year, the same as I did when I went to Vienna. And then afterwards, you see whether you want to stay on, and it just flowed naturally. They expected me to be there, and they didn't really expect me to leave either. They didn't want me to leave when I did leave. So,
oh my gosh. And you were there during the dictatorship, which was such an iconic time, such a scary time in Greek history.
It was. And I hadn't realized. I mean, I thought that I was politically aware because I was a flower power child, and I'd grown up with the civil rights and Vietnam and the problems that were in Ireland. And so I sort of thought I knew a lot about what was going on in the world. But no, I mean, Greece was an eye-opener to me. I knew I was going into a dictatorship, but I didn't really know what it meant.
Oh.
You actually don't until you're there, because a dictatorship is insidious. It creeps into your life in many ways that you really are not aware about until the, problems hit the fan. So,
right. Having grown up in democracies, we were not able to envision such a thing. Of course, I am
I've,
now, but
yes, and that's what sort of gets me now because I have lived through that sort of thing, and I
mm,
see how easy it is to become to get into this situation and
mm,
how difficult it is to get out because people die.
yeah,
It's as simple as that. You have to fight for it. And people just don't understand it. Unless you've lived in this sort of situation, you never understand it. And I think that was one thing besides being living in Vienna that made me later on go on and write war themes and
yeah,
things like that. I got to have that understanding of the personality of how it can change,
mm,
how you can become something you didn't think you'd become.
mm, yeah,
So
very, very affecting.
yeah, it was a horrible time in politically, but it was a great time for me, uh, expanding myself, and and I am glad that I experienced those times. It gave me a much broader understanding of the world.
I can see that, and I must tell you that in the past year, it's been very, very difficult for me to focus on reading, and that is my great love is reading, chasing down news feeds and try to understand what's happening in my own country right now. I have not had the attention span to stick with a book. It was such a relief to pick up your book and immerse myself in the colors and the smells and the beauty and the history. It pulled me right in. And your depth of understanding of the Greek character, philotimo, of the sufferings of the Greek people, and that juxtaposition of the horrors of Greece and the beauty of Greece, you really understand. And I can't recommend your book highly enough because it sucked me right in. It finally helped me to step away from the chaos that's happening in my country right now. And I thank you for that.
Um, Thank you. I'm glad that it did that because that's how I feel about Greece. You know, it's a contrast. It's the contrast of it, and eh, yes, I suppose in a way it was time. It's timely, but I hadn't thought about it in that way. But it is timely.
Accidentally timely. Yes.
And I also understand because you're not the first person. I've got a lot of writer friends who cannot concentrate at the moment. I think a lot of people are going through this. It's not just what's happening. It's what's happening everywhere. Everything,
Yes.
we're all being affected, and people are just seem to be sort of going into their shell a bit, either
Mm,
reacting or going into their shell. But it is affecting people. So I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. I've had friends that have said, oh, I can't write at the moment. I just can't write.
yeah.
And
Focusing is focusing.
for me, that's where I bury myself.
Yeah. Wise
So,
woman. Wise woman. And it was so lovely. And I noticed you see everything with an artist's eye as well, including food, and not just the artwork that you described and the architecture that you described, but the food, the smells, the landscape, everything was through an artist's lens. And it was really lovely. You really have a way of describing things in such a way that I could almost imagine myself there. I could almost imagine myself tasting the grilled octopus and smelling the sea air,
oh,
the gardenias, the
oh
gardenias.
yes,
Mm,
yeah, yeah. I automatically think of the gardenias on the balconies as well,
mm.
and then going around the Acropolis. I can just oh, it's giving me shivers. So,
Yes.
but I think seeing you can never tell how you as a writer you never you think you want to say something, but you don't know how the other person perceives it. But I do view things through an artist's eye. I think it sort of goes with the territory of my
Mm,
background.
Yeah.
Um, but that's trying to transport the myself and the reader holistically into the story. It happens with all my books, you know.
That's love. It's
Yeah,
multi-layered. It's got
yeah,
great depth to it. And you travel around the 12 islands, as the English translation of the 12 islands. You travel around and give us not just what the country looks like, what it is that you're experiencing. You're looking for the old traditions, but you're describing, as I said, the food, the smells, and the history. Every place you give us the history. That meant so much to me as a person of Greek descent, because people don't understand the generational trauma in Greece, and that people rise above that generational trauma, but it's still there.
yeah.
Many people don't really understand the history, and each island you took us through the history of the massacres, the history, the ancient history, but also how you harvest mastiki, which I loved. I loved that. That was such a lovely bit. I love mastiki, and I had been told by friends whose family came from Chios, basically, but you described the entire thing, and it became not just, oh, okay, this is how they do it, but it was like an experience, and I enjoyed that so much.
Um, well, all this happened a long time ago, but for me, it's still like it was yesterday, and I just feel I just get so choked up when I talk about it. It's really weird because it still means so much to me.
Yeah.
You know, I just also wish that these people who I had spoken to, who gave me so much and didn't even know, just small conversations, they they were part of my life.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have done that. I'm glad that I went back that I wrote this story now, looking back. It's so funny because it's sort of layered, really. There's the time when I was there, then I put it aside, but I was still working on it, of course, still reading more and more history, and then particularly about Turkey as well. But
Mm.
then I decide, after having a very good career, that I'm going to go back and be a writer. So I go and do it, and then in 2005, and then I didn't do anything with it till now. But I'm actually glad, in a way, that I left it until now because I've had got more experience as a writer, and I
Mm-hmm.
had a very good editor that helped me to pull it together as a whole circle rather than just write, well, I started here and I finished there, uh, type of thing. And 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 every time you go back, you, you you're seeing it through another lens,
Mm-hmm.
and it brought back all those things again that taking time out, just listening to people, just sitting. We've lost that art. We don't do it anymore.
I agree. I agree.
I have to stop myself as well from finishing a story and saying, well, I'm going to have some time off. I'm going to smell the roses. But yeah, here I am then next week back into writing another book again. Mind you, I love it. But it, unless you are forced into the situation, you don't take time off. And going away as I did, it forced me to take time off. And
Mm.
within like days, as you saw, within days, as soon as I was in Chios, I stopped feeling sorry for myself that I was alone. And I went with the flow and I loved it. I loved it. I wish more people would realize that doing something alone enriches you.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm thinking, I mean, I traveled two places, but I wasn't alone when I was there, once I got there. So it really made me think about that, and the ability to just have that experience of communicating with myself instead of always worrying about communicating with
Yeah.
whoever I'm with. So that very thought provoking as well. And you did meet so many interesting people.
Yeah.
So many interesting. The gentleman with the little museum in his grandfather's house.
Oh, I
That was
know.
incredibly charming. I'm just picturing this old papuli, and he's come into my house, and there's
I know.
all of
I
the
know.
mementos of his grandfather and the war that he fought in. And can you tell us a little bit more about that, because that was a beautiful
Oh,
story.
yes. Well, that was got my book of notes here. I've got see so many notes. I've got
You
so
should see
many
my
notes
notes.
that I can't, and then I can never find what I want. But that was when I was at Milos, isn't it? Yes, I
Oh,
was up
Milia, yeah, Milia,
Milia.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I was in Milia,
Mm.
uh, and just driving away. And I've told people since, after this happened, a lot of people didn't know about that museum because I hadn't seen it and it wasn't in the books.
Mm.
Um, but people since have told me that there is now a sign that it is still there, that it is actually there. So, so anyone going now will be able to find it. But I'm really glad. I mean, this is right up in the top of the mountains. You know, we're right at the height, and the fact that it was a hamlet, really, it wasn't
Mm.
a village, and the fact that they just got the key, and he opened it up, and it was just a little whitewashed village that, you know, he'd redone out in the same style that it would have been done for generations. And it was surrounded by all these photographs of his ancestors who were very important in Cretan life. I could see
Mm.
that. But he was so proud of them.
Yeah.
It was so, and they had, you know, they had fought like all the little bits and pieces that belonged to them. And his brother, the fact that his brother, you know, after his grandparents and great grandparents have been fighting the Turks, and then his brother fights the Germans, and
Yeah.
then when he says to me, and then he was killed, then when he said, but my son works in Germany and he loves it. So, you know, we fight each other and the next minute we're friends.
Yeah.
And, but he said it in a way that's life. And that was everywhere I found that sort of thing. It's, Tina Kanome, Aegean Odyssey.
Mm.
You know, after this amazing bloodshed. So I found that the Greek people are very able to, in one way, to put it behind them and get on with their lives, but they don't forget.
Yes, that's perfectly said. I know I had an uncle who fought in the mountains during the war, near Karpanisi against the Germans. And I could never get that picture. I have the photograph of him with the bandolier and I could never equate that with my jolly, laughing, loving uncle. That I just couldn't imagine him shooting at people. But that's what it was. They suffered. It was horrible. And now we live. Now we
Yeah,
enjoy life.
yeah. Um, it shows you that life is transient and we have to get on with it.
Yeah.
But I think that's the story of Greece. As I said to someone else, in the scheme of things, the Greece as a country is very new. So,
Mm.
so that's why I mean, you know, in England, we've been through a lot of bloodshed, but we've had sort of quite a few centuries of it
Mhm.
to to build on it. Whereas in Greece, it's still new. The wounds are still there,
Yeah.
and I think that's why Greeks fight with each other all the time, with the caffeine and things like this, because you know, as they did after the Greek War of Independence, they were all sort of at each other. All these
Mm,
groups were at each other, and they're still like that politically. They're still like that because it's new. It's new, a new. It's still a new country, and of course, it's a new country thrust into the world that we live in now. So,
mm,
yeah, they're philosophical and they're passionate and changeable. I understood that. And but I think I could I understood the Greek character by obviously by working there. I
mhm.
couldn't have I couldn't have written all the books that I've written on Greece without knowing that character. And I didn't speak Greek when I first got there. Uh, but I was thrown into it because I was the only English person in the factory, and um, I still I still do speak Greek with my friends, but it's become a bit more sort of broken. If I went back for 2 weeks, it would flow back to me again.
Definitely.
But
Definitely.
but it's still an advantage to live with people and not speak the language because you can read their eyes. So when they're telling you something, like when the Asia Minor refugees were telling these stories, and someone was translating it, like my boss or something, and was translating it to me, I could read their eyes. And I
Mm,
think that's very important as well. As they say, looking at the eyes is looking into the soul.
yeah. And it's true. Reading a person's posture, reading a person's emotions
Yeah.
is is part of really understanding them, not just
Yeah,
hearing what's coming out of their mouths.
yeah, because um, when you say look, understanding the Greeks' character, um, I didn't know at all anything at all about the Asia Minor catastrophe, and as I said, going back to this fact that I thought that you know I I was politically aware. Well, I immediately got to know about the dictatorship, but I had no idea at all about the problems between the Greeks and the Turks. And
Mm.
I still think most Westerners don't,
Oh,
which
they
is
don't.
no, and they should, because this is an important part of the Middle East and problems, and the going back to the First World War and all these sort of things. It's all connected. So I was living with the soul of those Asia Minor refugees for 6 years on top
Mhm.
of the dictatorship. And that
Wow.
leaves its mark because even now, even now, those families, the descendants of those families still call Asia Minor their home.
Yeah.
They still talk about it as their homeland. And I have to say, uh, in Turkey, the Cretans, there's a quite a large Cretan community of Turks that get together in Turkey, and they have the same feelings for Crete.
Sure, sure. Yeah, you've left your home, your ancestral home, where
Yeah,
people lived for generations upon generations, and
yeah,
it's heartbreaking. And you're right, most Westerners don't get it. What's interesting is they were all involved, their countries were all involved in it back in the day when these things were happening. So it's the history of Britain and France and Germany and so many other countries that is part of their history and how it affected Greek history. So
yeah.
it's important to get it out. And I love the way you just brought it up because every place you went had a history, and you brought up the history, and that was a piece of the puzzle for your readers. And
Well, I think
lovely.
that's where I could see why I explain at the end that I went on to write historical fiction because
Mm,
that's where my passion was lying. It was lying with finding the characters and finding the history and pulling the two together.
Hmm.
So I didn't see myself, and I still don't see myself as a travel writer. I mean, if I go and do it again, which I probably will do it, go and do something again, I'll still end up doing the same sort of format. It will be, I'll be looking for the food, I'll be looking for the church and what's the story behind that church,
Mm.
and going down those little pathways, meanderings, and finding out the details again. That's, yeah, so uh, history is very important to me.
Yes. And that's why it didn't strike me as travel writing as a travelogue. To me, it was more like reading an adventure story where you were finding new things and you were expanding your awareness and tasting things you hadn't tasted before. But you were very, very adventurous in taking these crazy mountain roads and going into areas where there were no proper road signs and where you weren't really sure where you were going. It was, to me, it was more like an adventure story.
I
And
know, but I like doing that. I like,
yes,
and I think it didn't bother me to get lost in Greece because I felt, well, I can converse with someone to ask it, to speak with them. So I think if I did that somewhere in, let's say, Romania, I might feel a bit different.
well, this is it. You have
But
so much of an understanding.
oh yes, there's mountain roads, particularly in Crete. But that was where that's where you find all these interesting things because nobody else will go there.
No, and you did. And then you asked questions and you just approached people and you had these hilarious adventures. Where was it that you lost the brakes on your car and you almost ran over? I think his name was Michali or something, or Minos, or I don't remember his name, but I'm trying to remember where you were at the time. If you were in Crete or Chios, where you lost control of your car, the brakes were not working, and you
Oh,
were heading
oh,
toward the restaurant.
that was in Rhodes,
I was in
in
Rhodes.
Rhodes,
Okay.
yeah, and oh, that was awful. And then I'm heading towards this thing, and we're waving really nicely, ella, ella, and then suddenly realizing he's going to get flattened.
It's so funny. There
And
was
then going, oh, funny you.
do your stuff, bro, everybody.
But the same ended up being a good story.
Yes, it did. There's a lot of fun in there. There's a lot of funny stories in there. The waiter, I think it was also in Melia, the waiter that was just not going to smile no matter what you did, and was so affronted when you asked what the special was, like that
I
he had to
know,
give you an entire tirade about what do you mean specials?
I know. That was funny. um, I still, I'm very happy to say that I've looked since, and a few of these places are still there. Of course,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
Media is, but also the place in Heraklion, the Saranda Afghan, the little Cafignon.
Yes.
Oh, I loved that. That was the old Greece to me. That was the Greece
Mm,
that I knew when I was in Athens,
mm.
uh, and um, and it's still there apparently.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I Googled it, so
The children
I'm
have taken
thinking I'm
over.
going to have to write to him and send him the photographs that I've got because I took absolutely loads. I've got about besides writing all my notes at the time that I did. Otherwise, I would not have been able to have remembered all those leptomerias, as they say. I wouldn't. I had books in the car. I had little books in my carry thing. So I was writing everywhere and then writing in the evening, but scrawling notes.
Mm.
And and then I typed them all up when I got back and then put them aside. But when I went back to look at it to redo this memoir, it surprised me how much the detail that I had written. So I'd never, if I hadn't written those notes, I never would have remembered it all.
It was.
I'm so thankful that I did. But all the little things that they said and the gestures and but he, all the way that he put all those little in the Saranda Avgar, the 40 Eggs Cafe,
Yes.
when he put all those little saucers of bits and pieces on the table. I mean, everything was falling off. It was so crammed, this little table, and it's still trying to pile things on top. And and then he charged me €3 for it. And I couldn't believe it. But we did have such a laugh because some of these men, when you see them sitting outside in the cafes, if you they can look a bit austere, they're sitting there with their mustache and quite you wouldn't want to mince words with them. But then they were laughing like children when we were talking about the Karaoke.
Oh, Catechiosis,
Ah,
yes. I
that
loved
was
it.
so that was so funny because they come in and said, and they're all and suddenly they were children again.
All remembering growing up
It
at the Catechiosis. Yeah. That was
it was
that was lovely. I even loved how he got the name for the restaurant. I thought that his grandfather had been an egg seller and would shout out 40 eggs, and that's
oh
how he got the name
yes,
of the
I know.
cafe.
I mean
That's
that's
lovely.
well, that's why as you understood why I was into Greek shop signs or signs
Hmm.
anyway, because of the my friend that worked in the photographer that worked in the factory. That's why I was alerted to all these things. But I mean, I noticed them anyway from the first time I went to Greece because Greek shop signs, then the handmade shop signs, you could see more of them than you can see now.
Hmm.
But the fact that he had been uh, asked to be the photographer for the company Papastratos, which is a very famous company. Um, to go and photograph that. It alerted me more to Greek shop signs as being the folk art that
Mm.
was very important to Greek life, to Greek villages. So I was always on the lookout for that, and I found that the names were always so strange, and the pictures had nothing to do with what the thing. It was hilarious. The imagination that was coming from these people.
Did he
So
ever print the book of
yes,
the?
yeah.
He did, because
Uh,
I'm going to look for it because I.
you can actually get the book on
Oh,
Amazon. I think
oh,
you
I'll
can
look
get it
for it.
second hand. Let me
I will look for it. I
uh,
was actually looking at images online of those types of signs, and I was loving them. They were great.
Uh, do you know? I went back afterwards when I had the studio, and Papa Stratas had done one about the with the cigarette covers, and it was at
Hmm.
the Benaki Museum, and I thought I'll come back and get it later. Then it had gone, and I never saw it again, and just regret that I never got the book. But here it is, as you can see. So I will take it out.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. The
And
artwork
look
is
how thick it
beautiful.
is.
The colors and the
I know, but look, have a look.
oh
Can
my
you?
gosh, those are beautiful. Those are beautiful. It's you sent me down such a rabbit hole with that, because actually repeatedly as I was reading I would go, oh, wait, what's that? And I would go and I would look, because I've seen a few over there, but not that you would notice over and over again. Everybody's got the neon signs now, or the more um, generic signs now. So
Yeah,
that's
well,
I'm going to look for that
and
book.
Costa giving it to me. I don't put it here. Can you see? Can you
I
see
can
this?
see there's writing, but I can't see what it says.
Uh,
It's blurry.
Anyway, but it's in Greek. So
No.
to Kathryn, and it's 1974 when he gave it to me.
Oh, wow.
So
Wow.
I'm sort of so honored. It's slightly. I have to be very careful with it. I've patched it up in places, but I think when I'm going to donate this to the Greek community when I go,
That's
along with a few other
oh,
things.
that's a lovely idea.
Yeah,
I
people
wanted
say
to
that
talk to
people.
you about your experiences at Olympus on Carpathos. I wanted you to tell me about that because you were looking for a village that went back in time and you found it in Olympus.
Ah, Olympus, yes, yeah. Um, well, I don't. I think from what I've gathered, it's not changed that much because I have a friend, a Facebook friend, and she's from there, and she
Oh,
still she owns a little house there. It's passed down to her, and
mm.
um she said after knowing that my book it was coming out, she said, I think I'm going to go back and do something with that place. But no, it was quite famous at the time when I'd looked to try and find authentic things, that this was one place that you would find that was authentic. Well, many people say something's authentic, and when you get there, it's nothing like it. But
Mhm,
the isolation at that time, you could I was going to drive from the south of Carpathos to the north where
mm,
Olympus was, but it's a fine ridge of mountains, and the
mhm,
road was apparently very dangerous. So Minos said, "I'll get you a jeep." Well,
mhm.
I'm very small. You perhaps can't see here, but I'm only 5'8", and me and the jeep
Oh my gosh, yeah.
don't go very well. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to go over the side. And I have another story about a Jeep later on, which didn't end very well. But
Oh
no,
dear.
I will not hire a Jeep again. And so I had another car anyway. I didn't when I was going around Carpethos, I didn't have the Jeep. I just got a normal car. But I thought because I'd been warned about the roads, it wasn't good for me to take that normal car. It might have been, but didn't. It seemed a bit iffy to me at the time, and I don't want to get
Mhm,
things scratched or even though I felt comfortable driving it. So that road was very dangerous. I think since they have made that road a lot more accessible, but they
mhm,
hadn't at the time. So that's why I went by boat there.
mhm.
Um, so we arrive at the port, and then we take the bus, and it meanders up into the gods, and
Okay.
uh, and suddenly you just see it. I mean, you see all over Greece in villages tumbling down the mountainside,
Mhm. Yeah.
but right from the moment that the bus is parked there, everybody's wearing their clothes. Well, most people are wearing their
Traditional.
traditional costume,
Mm,
and I think they still do it because it, they feel very proud about it, and they've become used to it.
mhm.
And they were selling. You could still buy the shoes, which were well made. So they appreciated their artisans,
Mhm.
and and that went for the obviously for the food as well, the macaroons.
Yes.
Everything was everything was handmade, and and the lady when I said also said that I noticed there was no one with grey hair. I mean, probably if I now then maybe. at the time, I can't remember seeing anyone with grey hair. Everybody had black hair, even when they were dark. So that's why I said to the lady, well, everybody's got really dark hair, even when they get older here. And she said, we don't use shampoos. We use the
Mm.
soap. And so when I got back to Australia, because there's a lot of really good Greek shops here, I
Yeah.
went to good a good thing of olive oil soap, and I
Hmm.
actually tried it myself. I mean, I was very dark, and I went red, and now I'm this color. But but it's really good for you. You can see the shine, and it cleans your hair very well. So
I never tried it. I use olive oil soap, like only olive oil soap, but I've never used it as a shampoo. So now I'm thinking,
yeah,
what, look how gray I am. I should have tried that. Maybe I'll try
yeah,
it now.
it does work. I would love to go back to Carpethos. I
Mm,
would love to go back and just dive into those fabulous waters.
mm.
Oh, oh, I did something for someone, and she said, if you went back to Carpethos now, what would be the first thing you would do? And I said, I would just go for a swim in those clear waters, and then come back and have a, a fish food in a taverna. But there, I mean, it was perfection, really perfection.
It sounded also very atmospheric. I mean, you were talking
Yeah,
about them creating the macaronis and drying them on the roofs,
yeah,
and that I'm just thinking of going back to that time that cars and motorcycles really couldn't get through the streets, that people were using horses and donkeys to travel through the village at that
that's
time.
right. Yeah, no, well, they still do. Yeah, they're doing that. They still
It,
do.
it's amazing because it's going back in my mind, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this could have been how my great grandparents lived. They were not from Carpethos; they were mainlanders, but the traditions that have been lost as Greece has gone EU, and the tourists. I loved also the way that you said that they suffered the massacres, and they suffered the wars, and they suffered the natural disasters, and they suffered the tourists. That was like they survived all of these things, including the tourists. That that the damage has
Yeah,
been done, but just reading about that and picturing it and imagining it, that this is how people live. This is how, and there's some people are still living that way, and it's amazing. And I wanted to ask you if you were familiar with George Stathakis. He's a Greek photographer who travels all over. He does the islands, he did the north, he travels all over taking photos of people in traditional costumes and recording traditional customs. And I thought that would be right up your alley. Yeah, George Stathakis, it's the Kariatis project where he does black and white photographs of traditional dress that are,
yeah. Can you send me the link?
I would love
Because
to.
how are you
Yeah.
spelling it?
His name is
Yes.
Tatakis, Tatakis. His work is amazing. It would be right up your
Okay.
alley.
Yeah, I'll have a look. But the costumes are different on almost every island.
Yeah. Mm.
I've got a book turning my back a bit onto you
It's
here.
okay.
Uh,
I appreciate your sharing.
somewhere here, and it's a thick book, so I shouldn't be able to. Here. This one, I got this one,
Ah,
Traveler's Cruise. Do you know
yes.
this book?
Yes, I think I've pulled that up on Hathy Trust before.
Uh, well, that's got all the islands
Mm.
and all travel, as it says, Traveler's Greece and memories from right back. And I actually looked at this when I was, because that's quite old. But
I'll have to
actually,
go back. That's 19th century, isn't it? Is that the night, or am
it
I thinking
goes
of
back,
something else?
and it goes back earlier than that.
Yeah.
But they all, a lot of them describe the dress, and the dress is all different,
Mm.
and the women are all different, and the way the women welcome,
Mm.
the customs, because
Mm.
some women were quite free with the guests. They were not
Oh,
as, you know,
nice.
yeah. So everybody thinks that Greeks were all cloistered, living behind the walls. Well, they might have been on some islands, but they weren't on all of them. So this
Mm.
was quite an eye-opener to see
Oh,
how different the women's attitudes were and the dress, and how many of the travelers talked about them being, in some cases, I think I wrote about one on, was it Lesbos? I think it was, how beautiful they were.
mm.
They noted the beauty. Might have been Chios or Lesbos.
I'm going to take a closer look at that one. Thank you for the recommendation.
I think I
Um,
got that from the Benaki Museum as well, but I think you'll get that online anyway.
yeah, I'm pretty sure Hathi Trust has it. I'll have to double check myself. I'm thinking of all the little lovely images that you had as you were passing through all of these different places. And one of them that struck me was the image of the priest at the monastery when you sort of passed by, and the monastery was locked, but the little door was open, and he was in there devouring a plate of curupieres, and I'm picturing the powdered sugar all over.
And he didn't know he was being spied upon by an English woman. It was really, really tucking into these courgiettes.
I love the image. I can picture it so perfectly. And there are so many images like that.
But what gets me as well about, and the other one, I mean, the Greek priests to me act very normal.
Yes.
Like they belong, they don't set themselves in this hierarchical situation as do certain other religions. They sort of blend in, they're in the cafe drinking with everyone else. And so they come across as normal. I mean, when I was in Lesbos and I was walking through and I was sitting in that square and Demi
Mhm.
Roussos is playing, I could hear this, forever and ever and ever. And the priest comes out and waters his plants, and then he goes back in and closes the door, and and forever and ever. It was really loud, so you know he was obviously into it as well.
Yeah.
They're normal to me. Quite good fun.
They are. They're part of our everyday lives. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the priests, when the dancing starts, that just okay, and they're
I,
right in there. I mean, that's something I didn't appreciate when I was younger because to me it was just normal.
I was looking at a video the other day, and there was the Greek piece. The priest was right in the middle of the circle, and he was swirling around and going down on
Yeah,
the floor. He was really good as well.
he was having
Mhm.
a good time. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's really enjoyable. So that image just because because of that, because it is just they're real people and they're doing real
yeah,
things, and he's probably
yeah.
covered in the powdered sugar, and that was just great.
And the other one as well in Crete, where I bought the book on Cretan saints and the
Yes.
CD, and he
Mhm.
was asleep. And
That
I
was a
just,
funny story.
sort of, hello, I'm here. Can I take that? And then he sort of went, as soon as I went, he went back to sleep
That
again.
was the monk in the shop. He just sort of
Yes, the monk in the ship. Yeah.
keep snoozing away. Take your book. Goodbye. I'm going back to sleep.
Don't bother me.
That is so much fun.
That was a special place. The Moni Akardi was a really special place to me. And if I had time, which I've got things lined up, I've always envisioned that I wouldn't mind writing an historical fiction story around Moni Akardi,
Mhm.
because now I have more of an understanding of the Turkish side of things as well.
Mhm.
And I just found that really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Both were passionate. I mean, we are a product of our times. That, Greeks, many Greeks, people didn't like the Turks. Well, let's say, well, we can't generalize, but you know, Turkish people as well had it bad. I mean, that person, he didn't put down the rebellion. And, you know, so he gets the wrath of the Sultan.
Yeah.
If you were a Turk and you didn't do the right thing, you know, you didn't survive. So
Yeah.
it wasn't just great. It was the Turks as well. You know, the Sultan was up there and you didn't want to cross him, who, regardless of who you were.
Yeah. It's always the guys in charge. They're the problem, really. I mean, it's like the Turks are kind of like cousins to the Greeks in so many ways. We
Yes.
share so
Yeah.
much culture and so
Yeah.
much history. And there were Turks that risked their own lives trying to help the Greeks as well.
I
We
know.
so these stories really need to be told, not just for the general public because they should know these things too, but for all of us to hear. Because I had an elderly aunt who my father always thought it was really funny when she wasn't in the room, because my father was an American, he was not Greek. He would say, "Oh, Nuna looks like a Turk." And I was always like, "I dare you to say that in front of her." And he never did. He never did. But he would get this very devilish look on his face when she was really annoying him and say, "I think she's a Turk." Like it was a great insult. And she would have taken it that way. But she lived through what she lived through, and her family lived through what they lived through. And it's very easy to not see other people as human beings, as
Yeah.
as the ones running things in Turkey just tried to say these are not human beings, as our administration now is trying to say these are not human beings. That's the easy way out. The hard way is to accept the fact that, yes, these are people who feel the way we do.
When they were trying to get rid of the Greeks in the countryside, particularly the Pontian Greeks and the Armenians, I mean, many there were some Turkish governors who didn't want to go along with this sort of thing,
Yeah.
and they were removed. So, uh, and that happened in Germany. It happens everywhere. We're human beings. Whoever's in charge, and the dictatorship of it all. If you don't
Mm.
follow my rule, you see it now, you're
Mm.
removed. You're
Yes. Yeah.
removed.
Yeah.
So can't there's good and bad on all sides. Good and
Yeah.
bad on all sides.
History's complicated. And
Yeah,
I
but after so many years of being together, uh, you there are like brothers and sisters, and I
mm,
think I think I see Greeks more as slightly on the Turkish Oriental side than I do on the Western side.
I agree with you. My sister and I growing up always said we felt more like Middle Easterners than,
Yeah,
than
yeah,
Europeans, that
yeah.
we have more in common in many ways. You know, my mother would say, "Yes, we invented Western civilization." I'd say, "Fine, but the food, the music, come
I know,
on." Yeah.
I know, and also traveling around and now because I'm married to a Maltese person, I see all the connection in the Mediterranean anyway.
Mm,
It was all these places were very interconnected.
yeah. They
So,
traveled.
they fight with each other, but they still took part of the civilization into
Right.
as
Right.
to to help enrich their own.
Exactly. Yeah. That's beautiful. I, I have to say too, I really appreciated not this just that you told the stories, but that you told them with such empathy and understanding of human nature and the suffering. I I was so moved when you spoke of imagining as you were sitting in this beautiful hotel, I think it was, looking out of the window at the bay. I think it was Chios. It was Chios, saying you were trying to imagine in 1922 the Chiotes
Oh
looking
yeah,
out and seeing the Turkish fleet coming at them.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely heartbreaking. And it was only a few words describing it, but I did get a chill. I get a chill just now too. That you were able to be in that place and you were able to feel those souls and what they suffered.
Well, that became such an important part, which is why it features so much in the embroiderer. So it's the beginning of the embroiderer, and I did a lot more research after that when I decided to do historical fiction, and I
Mm.
did it from the Turkish side as well.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a very good book that I got, and it was from the Aegean Society in New York, and it's a first-hand account of what took place,
Oh, wow.
and that helped me as well. So I was bringing in my background of textiles and art and design, but I just knew that when I started, Helios was going to be the starting point. I look, when I wrote the embroiderer, which was the result of that trip,
Mm-hmm.
um, central to the embroiderer is the Asia Minor conflict. But that permeates it. It's before the Asia Minor conflict and after. Uh, and catastrophe, so I should say. But
Mm.
I had to start somewhere and I had to finish somewhere. And the starting point, because I wanted the reader to understand, I just didn't want to dive in at what was going on in Smyrna in those awful days.
Mm.
Uh, so I went back and thought to I had to write this. Oh, it's a bit of a long story here, but I thought, what would make the Turks so aggressive at that time to do what they did? You know, it just doesn't happen overnight. So I then went back to research World War One with Turkey. I read books on Ataturk and a lot of Turkish books as well. And
Mm-hmm.
then I thought, now I have to go back to the Balkan Wars. And then I couldn't, and then it wasn't enough. Then I had to go back to the Greek War, the War of the Revolution,
Independent.
and uh, and that was my starting point at Chios. So
Mm.
one of the protagonists, Chios, is central to her life,
Mm.
and it finishes with World War II, but a modern day story. So what it was a Greek story. It was how they became wealthy, many of them, how they became wealthy and prospered under the Ottoman Empire, and how they lost it overnight, and how I had to do. I could have done it in probably 3 books, but I don't really like reading books like that. I prefer, I don't want to think that, the person's then going to go and buy another book. I'd
Mm.
rather try and get it all together if I can. So they had to reinvent themselves, these people. One and a
Wow.
half million people reinventing themselves, and not everybody made it. Many
No.
committed suicide. They died of typhoid, and others became wealthy. So I needed to tell that whole story.
Mm.
And of course, then when World War II came, they were many of them were able to use that fighting background and that fighting spirit against the Germans and the
Mm.
Italians.
Yeah, that
So,
was amazing
um,
too.
so I saw it as all right. I was spanning 150 years. It was all in, integrated. To me, I felt you couldn't know one bit without you knew the other bit.
Yes, it's true. It's true. It's a complicated history and it's still going. There's still conflicts that you can trace all the way back. Arguing with Turkey that you can trace all the way back to
Yeah,
Cyprus and before that and before that and before that. That
yeah,
it's I love history and I love the connections and I love being able to see someone else creating those connections. Um, and I am now ready to go down your entire reading list because I love historical fiction And in the past, I've sort of tiptoed away from the Xeni writing, the non-Greek people writing about Greece, because I always wind up disappointed or offended. But I read your memoir.
I think that's very important, and it's one reason I wanted to go back. When I did the embroidery, I did it for me, relating the Greek to tell everybody about what I knew about that whole thing. But
Mhm.
one reason for writing the memoir was that I was seeing too many memoirs that were coming out, and I felt that there were tourists. Look, some are brilliant and funny, and another of a different aspect.
Mhm.
They're coming from a different perspective. But some
Mhm.
people were going and more or less trying to tell you about the islands, and I just felt they didn't have a clue what they were talking about. It
Yes.
was, yeah, and I said, you miss, this is just superficial. That's how I
Mhm.
felt. It's superficial, and that they didn't experience, or they didn't get the chance to experience what I had experienced, and
Right.
that's why I wanted to write what I did, because I felt there was more depth to be brought out. It,
Yes.
you know, all those little shops that are lost, that are no
Mhm.
longer there. I have to go to Turkey to find those, which is, it was 10 years ago since I was in Turkey. I've quite a good, fond relationship. I like to see things from both sides as
Mhm.
well. And I do like Turkey as well. And I travel around, and I find the things that I would have found at that time, but they've been replaced by mass tourism
Mm.
in
Yeah.
Greece,
Yeah. It's
which is sad
unfortunate.
because, we don't want everything to be homogenized into one thing.
Yeah.
Mass tourism is ruining things.
It is the Disneyfication now of Greece. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, and that goes for the food, you see. Again, in Crete, when I went to the hotel, and she said, we make a point of cooking food here that they would have cooked centuries ago, not
Mm.
using modern ingredients. So that's why I gave those recipes at the back, and particularly things like the lamb, that
Mm.
that rolled lamb which I have made. Well, they were all things that ancient Greeks would using the honey as the sweetener in the lamb, and
Mhm.
the raisins and sultanas and the cheese and things, and wrapping in the vine leaves. So so I was very glad that I found that hotel that they were producing authentic food.
And
Uh,
it was kind of intoxicating listening to you describing this food. And then I very much appreciated that I can then go back and look at the recipe. You
well,
really,
I had to, actually, a few of my books have got a recipe at the back. I
oh,
can't help
nice.
myself. I'm gravitating towards, I'm always on a diet, as you can imagine. So, yeah, the embroiderer has a recipe at the back, which is a pilaf. Uh, When the Couturier lived in Constantinople, uh, before the Balkan Wars, she had a maid who used to make the pilaf.
Hmm.
So I researched all the pilafs, and this pilaf was always at special occasions, and I had put the recipe at the back, but I put it as if the recipe was still coming from a real person who had
Oh,
worked at the Topkapi, or
hmm.
yes, so a family had been in the Topkapi, although the
Hmm.
palace moved. So I made it that,
It
the
was her
person's
recipe.
recipe was real. And uh, in the Blue Dolphin, which is set on a Greek island in World War II. The uh, the recipe at the back is caca, cacavia, cacavia,
What is that?
cacavia, the Greek fisherman's soup. Cacavia.
Uh-huh.
How do you pronounce that?
Caca,
Cacavia.
cacaravia. Yeah.
Cacavia.
Thing
And
cero tipota. I don't know. That's not in my repertoire.
anyway, it's a Greek fisherman's soup
Mm.
that she used to make. So I've got quite a few. I put a recipe at the back.
Yeah, that was lovely. I enjoyed that. And that's when my husband really perked up because he loves to cook. And then he said, "Oh, recipes." He was like, "Oh, recipes?" I wanted to see. So we're gonna check some of those out because they looked really good. And how did you get these people to give you the recipes? You went into these hotel kitchens and visited and checked out the
Yeah.
kitchen. You came back out with the recipes.
Well, the marinated squid, the
Mm.
recipe for that, it's so simple, few ingredients, and but it made it. You know, it was caramelized. It caramelizes, which I never had that with that addition of mustard
Mm.
anywhere else. I mean, the squid was fabulous in other places, but it just wasn't like that.
It was
And
different.
it was
Mm.
very generous. I only wish that I could make the mustalevria that I had
Oh,
in
that sounded amazing,
I
and
know
I
because
felt
it was
intimidated
made with the
immediately.
ash.
Yeah, yeah.
And
To clarify,
yeah, and I mean, who's going to make mustalevria like that now? I mean, you can still get it, but it's just, it's not at
it's
all.
no,
That,
not the same at all. I miss my aunts and my great aunts. Yeah, it's because when I was looking at the description of it, I was thinking that's not going to happen here. That's not going to happen in my kitchen. I just feel
it was
intimidated
sort
by
of
thinking about it.
you can make a look-alike mustalevria, but not the same. And there as well with the food, the chestnuts in red wine because it was chestnut season.
It sounded
And I have
amazing.
never been able to actually make them the same. I've
Mm.
tried. Well, it's a bit very, I mean, it's not easy to open chestnuts to bake them. It's very fiddly. And you needed that the right oven, not a normal oven that I
Oh,
have.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you needed that aroma to go with it as well.
Mm.
That was just so delicious.
Very different. Like we always say, outside of New York, New Jersey, nobody can make bagels. They just can't. I don't know what it is. I don't know
Really?
if it's the water. I don't know the elevate. I have no idea what it is, but it's true. There's no place that you can get bagels that are really good outside of New York and New
No.
Jersey.
Hmm. It's I
It's
love
just what it is.
bagels.
Oh, my brother used to have my mother freeze them and send them to him in California because he would go, California bagels are terrible. So I'm thinking maybe it's the same type of thing. It's like you can take the chestnuts out of grease, but you can't take the grease out of the chestnuts or something.
Yeah, and the wine, the probably the wine that was local
Right.
wine. Well, um, that goes for a lot of things. The water really affects things. That
Mm,
is true for dyeing, natural dyeing.
mm.
Uh, it used to be that years ago, dyers could tell where something was dyed just purely by looking at it because they knew the water of the water.
Really?
Yeah. So
Huh.
it water affected things. So if it affects dyeing, why wouldn't it affect food?
Oh, yeah, you're right. That's pretty interesting. I can just imagine somebody looking at a piece of cloth and saying, "Oh, this came from Crete. I can tell. Look at it." Oh gosh.
Well, I think it applies. Yeah, yeah, with the madder, those main dyes, the madder and um, indigo and those.
Mm.
It changes depending where the water is.
That's interesting. I saw something in your biography that I thought was really interesting. You have a coloring book.
Oh, yes.
I thought that was great, and it looks beautiful.
Well, here we are.
Look. Oh, see my adult daughter, she loves coloring, but oh my gosh, that's gorgeous.
Um,
I
I
saw
had
gods and what looked like saints and
well,
empresses and
I started coloring one here.
beautiful. And what is the
Um,
title of the coloring book?
Colors of Aegean Dreams,
Oh,
a
that's
Greek
beautiful.
Odyssey, and it's a coloring book for adults. Now, I had two things here. I had to keep explaining to people it's not X-rated because you
Adult
think I'm
coloring book.
gonna get
Ooh,
nude, or something Greek,
that's funny.
ancient Greek nude. And because it's just a thing today, coloring books have
Yeah,
become very popular for a stressful world.
yeah.
Um, but I also I've actually got another one which is in a different room, which I've colored almost half of the book. And when I'm at the Greek festival, I take it with me because people started to look at it and they said, "Oh, that's too nice. I couldn't color that. It's too nice for me. I'm not good enough." And I said, "No, it's really easy to do." So I had to show people, take
Oh,
the
what you've
pencil
done.
and literally show them. All you do is just do this and you shade, and it doesn't matter if you don't like that color, you go over it. And it's made purposely slightly thick, and nothing will go,
Go
the color
through.
won't go through it. But it's still advisable to put a bit of card underneath. But it's
Yeah.
very easy with colored pencils, especially today.
And that's really beautiful drawings. Those are very beautiful drawings.
Well, I did this in collaboration with my girlfriend in the UK, because Jill, her mother is an author friend of mine, but Jill is a tech person.
Hmm.
And I sent her all the ideas because she had already done a coloring book. And so I sent her all the ideas, and she then played about with them. And we actually did that within about 2 weeks, that book. We produced it
Wow.
in 2 weeks, yeah. And then we decided to put a little phrase as well.
Oh,
So
with
every,
each one. Nice.
yeah, uh,
That's lovely.
it
And
was great fun doing that.
it looks great. It looks like you have the ancients in there. You have some gods in there. It looks like and I
Yeah,
saw an empress.
yeah,
It's
a little bit of Byzantine, this
ooh, lovely. That's lovely.
a bit of
Some
faux,
architecture.
this, which is, I suppose, we're going to pre-Raphaelite almost. We put borders as well.
The Greek key. Very important.
Yeah, we here and there. This one we liked. You see, when that started off, it just started off as this. So we then put it in a border, and then we said, now we need something in the background.
That's a
So
fabulous
all
Medusa.
the more stuff for someone to color, so that
Yeah.
they could literally fill the whole page if they
Yeah.
wanted to. And here again with this, it was just
Beautiful.
quite fun to do the whole thing. A few weeks ago, just before Christmas, my girlfriend here, and she's got one, and both of us went to the cafe down the road, and we took our coloring books and we sat there over coffee
That's
and we're
nice.
coloring.
Nice and relaxing.
Yeah,
And you have the best coloring books in town. You interview other authors on your website,
yeah. I
which
interview other authors, and then I write certain themes. I don't have so much time at the moment to write a lot of themes that I would like to write. I've also written for a French magazine, which is
mm,
on women in war. So I do other writings for other people, and then with my own work, I don't have as much time as I used to have to keep
God,
doing the blogs. I've got articles on Turkish things and articles on Greek things, articles on actually writing the embroiderer, how I wrote it, where the places were. And so there's a whole mixture of things.
It's very nice to see because it sort of gives a whole different background about you and about how you're doing what you're doing.
I loved my designing life. It was great. But things change. And
Oh.
I was I just I I love writing. I love immersing myself in another time and place.
What are you working on now?
Well, I've still got World War II Malta, which I had started, and then I put aside when I did the Aegean Odyssey, because it's quite complex. I'm waiting to get my Maltese citizenship.
Oh,
So,
lovely.
so that I can, because Brexit, having the UK passport, I lost that being able to stay in Europe for a year. So I'm trying to get the Maltese one through via my husband.
Yeah.
But as I write World War books, I wanted to do World War Malta. I was there researching that, but there's a lot I had. It's like the embroiderer took me 6 years to write, I would say. And the Malta one, it's generally, Malta World War II is generally written by a lot of men because about Spitfires and all these sort of things. Well, I need to know all this, which is why I've got a big part of books to read. Plus, I've been there and I've been to the areas, so I've got the feel of everything. And I'm actually halfway through, but I'm writing it through the perspective of a family life, and how they're impacted by war. And of course, not everybody survives, but it's a lot of reading. I mean, I've got to know about submarine fleets and things like
Yeah.
this, and I've got to know about the Italian side of things
Mm-hmm.
and German side of things. So it's a slow going, and I want it to be really good. So I'd rather put it aside every now and again. So I put it aside to do that, to do the other one. And that's fine because it's given me another perspective on what I was doing as well. I don't mind doing things like that. And some people get a bit worried if they put things aside. I don't. I know that I'm going to always go back and finish it, and sometimes better. So
Yeah.
I actually found another aspect I could introduce at the beginning while I was writing the Greek book. But I then was about to go back to it, and then I just had this brain wave of another French book set in Paris, World War II. And this one is set, most of my books are set on real stories.
Mm-hmm.
And this one is set around France's worst serial killer. And he
Wow.
operated in Paris in World War II.
Oh my gosh.
I had this and I thought, wow, it just came to me and I thought, I can build an action-packed story around him, and I'm halfway through it. So I aim to finish that in 2 months. And then I'm going back to the Malta book.
Wow. Lots to look
And
forward to.
and
Wow.
and it's quite fine for me to move from one country. I like writing about France. I've got at least 5 books in France, set in France, and some of them I've won the International Hemingway Award for wartime
Yes.
fiction, as has one of the Greek books in World War II. Actually, 2 of them have. One is set in Turkey as well, in Istanbul, in his Greek character. And so I really quite like writing about France, but it gives me a breather from the other countries, clears the space, and then you can go back with fresh eyes.
Yeah, sometimes that step back makes all the difference.
Yeah, yeah, I don't and after doing the memoir, which was such a different genre, I wanted to do an action-packed, uh, a real cloak and dagger type of action-packed World War II one. And this one with the serial killer gives me the chance to do it. So I'm typing away madly to get it out.
That sounds so exciting. I'm grateful you found the time to talk to us. It sounds, I don't know how you're juggling all of this, all of these things going on, but it's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you for hosting me. I'm really pleased to speak with you. Of course, I'm going to
Thank
make
you.
time with you. It's good. It's good. Good.
Thank
I
you.
like.
Hope you'll talk to us again with the next book. I was really very much enchanted with the memoir. It really, I needed it at the time that it came to me, with things that are going on here that we've been struggling with, that it just really helped to ground me again and helped me to feel like a reader again. So
Well, that makes me feel good. So thank you.
thank you so much. Be well, be safe, and keep writing.
I will. And thank you, and look after yourself. Take care.
Thank you.
Kathryn talked about a couple of books that she showed me while we were having our discussion, and we wanted to share those with you. Greek Shop Signs by photographer George Vakaritsis. You can see samples of this form of folk art on Kathryn's website at kathryngauci.com. We'll link her page on the episode notes. And Traveler's Greece, Memories of an Enchanted Land, compiled by John B. Tompkinson. We'll also be linking that. I was mistaken about it being on Hathi Trust. They only have the MARC record. We'd like to thank Kathryn Gauci for taking time out of her busy schedule to speak with us and share her experiences. Thanks for listening. Greek Like Me is a Stealth Greek production. I'm your host, Pamela Diotis Wood. Our producer, photographer, and post-production editor is Douglas John. Visit our website at stealthgreek.com for resources, photos, links, and more, including some images of some of Kathryn's books. Her list of books will also be linked in the episode notes. Rate, like, and subscribe. It helps us keep making content about Greeks and Greek culture. Greek Like Me is on YouTube, Facebook, or on Instagram at Greek_like_me. See you next time. Yes.